Now is the Livewire's new AFG, which is the new oscillator, which is really, really cool. It allows you to create a lot of textures just from one single oscillator, a lot of modulation, into one of my favorite filters, which is Livewire's Frequensteiner, which is in high pass mode. It just breaks like no other. And then I gave up on using VCAs and I only use dual timbral gate, which is nothing but a low pass gate. I mean, that works as an amp for me. People think, it's not fast enough because it's Vectral, that's right, but I mean, that's how I use it. If I need to create a drum machine, I just use a drum machine, you know what I mean? If I need to create the sound of a drum machine. But this was, it came up as an idea just to create a system to use live. So it's basically built-in one zero Halliburton case, and the cool thing about it is that the sequencer has a 1/4 inch input, so you can receive a click from Pro Tools, 16 note click, and you basically slave it. You switch this down, and then so as long as I get a click, my system is always going to be, so no MIDI clock or anything. It's just old school, and even in the studio is really easy because I can assign the click in Logic to a dedicated output and just send it in, and everything just syncs up perfectly. I can choose subdivision because I have a time splitter, so if if you see it, if this is your 16 notes, then you have all the 8 notes and the 1/4 note, and you have all the subdivision. You can take them here and feed them back into the clock if you want, the sequencer to go at a subdivision. The other cool thing about it is that I have a voltage controllable mixer. So 2 of the channels I can actually voltage control the panning. The panning, not the volume, which is fine. I mean, it's especially live. I mean, you have to consider that this was obviously something that I did mostly for myself, because a lot of the keyboard parts and a lot of the keyboard environment that was 9 Inch Nails before I came in was sample based and a lot of show, which, not being a keyboard player, I really couldn't relate to. So my main priority was to keep busy doing stuff, keeping as much stuff as I could off tape, off Pro Tools sessions on a live environment, and do as much stuff that would make me feel like I was doing something productive for the whole song. And to be honest, I didn't really care if it was something that the crowd would get or not, because most of the time they don't. It's just a small texture in the whole song, and people are not there to come see, or hear synthesizer sounds anyway. But luckily, I mean, not luckily, but Trent enjoyed that approach, and I think it looked cool on stage too, on top of it. But it allowed me to have certain sequences going. It's driving me crazy, sorry. Sequences going on during songs, usually atonal. Most of the time was the Dalek modulator, which is a ring mod that Livewire makes. But they were always in time. I could change them a little bit, but it was always in time depending on the song, because the guy that was John Van Eden, which was the tech responsible for the Pro Tools rig, would have sessions, and at the moment it would go to another song, I would get the click in that time.
So basically you have the same patch through the entire show,
and you're
kind of modifying it?
There was a channel with a sequencer. It was a sequence, basically. And that I would change. It would be the ring mod, so I could change. The ring mod, the cool thing is that you can sequence both oscillators independently. So let me show you, for example. Let's take... So now I'm syncing. I'm sequencing only one, right? But now I could take... And this is just with the... you can make so many changes just with this. And then you can just play, with the envelope if you, put it in LFO mode and do stuff like that in real time.
Now, is there space for you in the band to do that?
Nobody complained about it.
So every night you basically are improvising in certain sections that you can just get away
Nobody
with.
really complained about it, so I'm assuming it was okay, you know?
It's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I mean, it was mostly for me, because it just you know, when you play, I mean, no matter how great the gig can be, it just gets boring when you do it 200 times. I mean, it's just, you know, you have to find something to at least you feel like you're doing something, you're adding something, because last thing you want to do is feel like it's a job, you know, and you're doing the same exact thing every night. Especially when some of the sets were linked to a Pro Tools session that, yes, was changed every night, but still, it wasn't changed in the middle of the show.
Right.
So you knew that this was coming after this and that was coming after that, you know, and because the lights and everything is slave to that, so, you know, it's just out of logistics, obviously. It's not a club show, so there are things that you can't change.
Do you have a specific patch that you would have every night, or do you start fresh?
No, I would have. The cool thing is that you can put the lid on, and you can keep
with the cables in.
With cables in.
Ah, okay.
So that would stay. There was this patch going on, a similar patch to the one that I just played to you, and then there was an input for the French connection, which was basically this controlling an analog systems rack with just a voice for one oscillator, no envelope, because envelopes I would do with a button. Because a button allows you to, you know, send out gates and voltage. So the more you press down, the more voltage you're actually sending out. And then I had a radio patch, which was an iPod actually, and it used to be actually a radio, like an FM radio, but it was an iPod with a certain message going through a filter, which was Peter's, so Plan B's, where I think I actually took it out. Yeah, right now it's not. It's probably here. Let me see. Some stuff I take out. Now I'm trying these Harvestman modules. So. Yeah, the state variable Vactrol filter, and I used that to filter an iPod and then going through delays. There was a line 6 delay connected to this at the output stage, so that I would add delay on the sequence and tap tempo it to the right tempo. And then there was a patch for a song called "The Beginning of the End," which was a VCO tuned to the song, and then basically just broken up with a module called. But how the recording was done was trying to fucking around with a mini Moog, playing a tone and just fucking around with the octave switch. It creates really broken up, really cool sound, and the way that I replicated it live, well, I think Mike has the module, so this is not the one, but Mike from Livewire has a subdivider module, which is it's cool because obviously you feed it whichever waveform and it gives you a square of a subdivision, just like a normal subdivider. But the cool thing is it gives you intervals too. So you can choose the third, you know, and it's really cool when you actually do it with pitch. But the coolest part is actually if you feed it a clock, because all of a sudden it sends you out subdivisions for tempo. So you can come up with, you know, 7, 5, or 3, whatever. You know, it's really, really creative from that point of view.